Okay, we're gonna quickly show you that we're gonna blow dry the bird here. Of course, it took about like over an hour, but I'm not showing you any of that. Boring. So I'm sure you know how to blow dry a bird. So anyway, the bird is fully dry right now, and I have my attachment wire ready, and I'm finding a bald or featherless patch of skin, which is usually underneath the wing in that wing pockets area. So I push my wire right from outside and make sure that it comes out exactly where I want it, so I'm not disturbing any feathers. This wire that you see seems to be thin, but it's a very strong wire. It's galvanized, so I left it like that. So anyway, when the wire comes out, make a big U and push it back inside the body with basically without bothering or disturbing any of the feather quills, so no feathers is going to be sticking out of its place. This is right underneath the side breast feathers, and it's basically where the wing pocket is a spot that you've noticed. I'm sure you've noticed that is featherless, and that's where you use it. Of course, it depends on the type of mount and where you're gonna attach it and whatnot. So I have my temporary stand here, and I'm going to attach that bird into that 2x2 stick so I can start posing it. Okay, so the bird is attached and it's going to be posed and whatnot. So the first thing I'm gonna do here for you guys, many of you guys have asked about eye rings, so I'm gonna do a little bit of slower work in here and put it right in front of camera. So for those of you who don't know how to create the eye rings, so you can have some idea how to do it. You always need to freshen up the feathers around the area that you're working. Just move them up and down and make sure that the whole skin is sitting relaxed and basically is not being tensioned or pulled from anywhere. It is very important. These feathers on top of the wings, when you blow dry, especially when you're leaving your secondaries attached to the bone, they're all gonna go underneath one another. So the top feathers will go underneath the bottom feathers and whatnot. And if you leave them like that for too long, then they're gonna just adapt the shape and they're just gonna stay crooked or curled and whatnot. That's why I like to just push them out of the area that we push them in. We pull them out, and then we can do the final adjustment later, but as long as they're not tucked underneath one another, then we're all good. And if you use a pin like that, is going to help you do it properly. And you push them right from, like, hold everything up and make sure that the feathers, they're all lined up exactly and they're shingled up on top of one another properly, so no top feathers is caught underneath the other ones. And I don't know how to tell you about positioning the wings. That's something that you need to study yourself. and it would be pretty hard to show you through the video because it's something that I basically I can only tell you how to do it when you're beside me. It would be pretty tough to show it on the video. So having the skin loose around the body, around the neck, everything is very important. So that means that your body should fit perfectly. A fit body still is going to feel like it's too small. But if you have followed the measurements of the body that came out of the bird, then that looseness of the skin should not fool you. Now we're going to use some pink colored epoxy sculpt and make some very fine rolls. How thick? I don't really know. Maybe it is 1 millimeter. I don't know. I've never measured them. These are things that you usually go by visual measurements. I haven't really figured out what thickness is right for each bird because every bird can be different. So what I usually do, I like to clean out a piece of table, a corner of a table, and so I can roll out my eye rings properly. You know, guys, if you don't have a pink sculpt, magic sculpt or epoxy sculpt, don't go for buying a pink one. You can mix it with the paint that you have, acrylic paint that you have, and it will take the color, any color that you want. And that's how I usually do it. But pink was quite common for me to use, so I bought a little jar of pink basically kit too. But otherwise, I usually mix it with acrylic color and just create the color that I want. So now we're going to create the eye ring right now here. The first thing I always say, make sure your skin around the eye is centered. It means that you have slowly brought this skin around the eye to the point that you're not pulling the eyelids to bring them into shape or bring them into place. They're there already. They're sitting relaxed. So with those clay work that we did, if you remember, in the first part of the video, now what we're going to do, we're going to tuck in the eyelids into those clay. Okay, I like to close the wing the way you see. Move around the wattles, make sure that everything is centered. I like to close up the eyes, basically like that. Bring the eyelids down before I push them open, toward being open. Make sure my wattle is in perfect shape and in perfect spot. So the eyes are basically looking like, you see that line of feather underneath the eyes, you don't want to tuck that in. That's supposed to be staying outside. So I close the eyes and I start pushing them under the clay from the bottom to the point that the eye is open exactly the way I want it. There's a little bit of an eye muscle on top of the eye. You can use that and tuck your eyelids underneath the clay work that you've made. And then I'm gonna do the other side too. Okay, now after leaving your epoxy roll for 10-15 minutes, so it gets a little bit, it sets a little bit so it's not too soft, then you bring a piece of that roll with little paintbrush that you manufactured for yourself, that you can dampen the paintbrush and basically use it to push in that roll underneath the eyelid. I usually like to use my needle to open up the eyelid area, and of course we cut it out to the length that we want. Use your needle to open up the eyelid and use your brush to push in the epoxy roll. If I have used fresh mixed epoxy, it's just more difficult to work with, that's all. You're just gonna push it out of shape, and then it's a little bit more frustrating. So when you leave it to set for 10-15 minutes, depending on which brand you use, they're gonna set a little bit. As you can see, they're a little bit harder and still pliable. Then you can easily work them into your eyes. Your damp little paintbrush that you have is a great help here, because it has a soft touch to it, and it doesn't reshape or deform your roll of epoxy. So you slowly push that thing underneath that eyelid, and you let it just sit with open gap with a little bit of water. Make sure that you're clean, and basically this roll just created the meat or the thickness of the eye ring. It's not the eye ring that you're going to be showing off. So I'm just adjusting more and more, making sure that everything looks exactly like the way I want it. Now we have even a thinner roll, almost the half thickness of the first one. You bring that on and you leave that and push it right on that open gap that you left. So this would be the visible eye ring. The first one that you tucked underneath the skin just gives you the plumpness and the meatiness, or if that's the word, the basically the size and the thickness of the eyelid. That's not exactly where you end. The second roll is where you're going to basically lie right on top of it, but it just closes the gap that we left open. So anyway, a little bit more adjustment, more cleaning around the eyes, and of course the angle of the basically the angle of the eye has been adjusted before when we were installing the eyes. I'm trying to show you both eyes so you can see how they're looking forward without blocking the view of the camera. But anyway, the bird is looking forward perfectly good. Okay, we're actually getting close to the end of this part 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you didn't know how to create eyelids, now you know. Okay, we'll see you in part 3, or I don't know, I lost track, maybe part 4. So in the next segment anyway, we're going to finish the posing and carding the pheasant for flying position. Thank you very much. Stick around for the next episode.